feeling today?
I'm blessed. I'm good. I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Well, no, listen, I'm happy you are here. I don't think a lot of people know that you and I, Jen, we're very close. I consider you one of my closest friends. We hang out, we go have lunch, we talk about business. You are somebody who I revere as one of my babies. You know, I know people say I love all the girls, which I do, but there's a certain select few who I like in real life, like break bread with. And you are somebody who I've always broke bread with, especially like back in our days in Miami.
Yes, exactly.
Some would say,
Sorry.
they're
I hit the mute button by
um
accident.
Physically challenged. Here's
oh
the thing. So I really don't have a type. Like if you look across the board, nobody looks alike. You know what I mean? Because it's not really. I feel looks are gonna go at some point. I mean, not mine. No, I'm just playing. But it's like it's so much bigger than that. For me, it's just it's about a lot of things. It's energy, it's conversation, like how comfortable am I with you. So that the looks I can.
All right, welcome back, Naughty Crew. Okay, we are gonna do reaction to Jennifer and Williams and Christian from Basketball Wives. They sat down with Carlos King, I guess, to try to explain some of these allegations that have been going around. So shout out to Reality with the King. Fair use commentary. Jennifer is going to open up about scammer allegations, prison sentence, and things like that. Okay. Sorry if you couldn't hear me in the beginning. I hit the mute button, but I did put a poll. Y'all let me know. We're going to react.
Look past certain things.
yeah, because we went on tons of double dates. And I've always met the guy you were dating because you would ask my opinion.
It's so funny how I don't even know how that's happened, but it has happened.
It has happened. So were you, Jen, surprised within yourself based on the track record that when you first laid eyes on him, were you
Thumbs up the
like,
video.
ooh, attracted to him? Or what was that like when you guys first met?
So when we first met, he actually had on a hoodie.
Yeah.
So I saw his
Basically, my
face.
pajamas.
Yeah.
I was coming from my apartment.
Right. So do you want to tell the story how we met?
No, I want you to tell it. I always tell it.
Okay. So I'm gonna tell the short version.
Okay.
So I was out all day. I was at the Four Seasons. I was with our mutual friend Armani. That obviously I didn't know that he knew him, and we had. I literally I was there since 11 o'clock. Then I ran into somebody else. Then we went somewhere else. Armani had recently moved.
11 o'clock a.m.
Yes.
Oh, you was getting in early, honey, at Four Seasons.
Well, I had a meeting. So then it was like the day just progressed.
Hey, Ace of Spades.
So Armani had recently moved.
Please thumbs up the video.
God, like I have never seen your place. Like let's go.
They're talking about when they first
So
met.
at the time they were living in the same building, and so I don't know. We never even made it to Armani's apartment, which you met Armani.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up going to the rooftop. They have a really beautiful rooftop on this building. And we were just like there. One of their other neighbors was there. And we were drinking wine. He comes off the elevator. I think you saw me before I saw you. I'm not really sure. Because I think my back was turned. And him and Armani spoke. So now we're just all on the rooftop drinking wine. I was like, here's the thing. You see somebody attractive, you acknowledge that. And I was like, oh, like, obviously he's attractive. I wasn't looking at it from I might want to fuck with him.
Right,
It wasn't
Juice.
like that,
Because girls know instantly, like, dude, you stand no chance. So when you first saw Christian, were you like, oh, what,
No, I wasn't thinking that, honestly, because I was not in that headspace. Like, I wasn't in a headspace of looking for a partner, looking for a relationship. So I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, I want that definitely was not my initial thoughts.
I will hope not. Okay, you just meeting the man. All right, so they getting into how they first met, all the semantics and things like that. Please participate in the poll. I'm doing a reaction video to Jennifer and Christian sitting down with Carlos King. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go live and watch it with my Knotty crew for those of you that didn't have a chance to watch it. Okay, so she's in bliss right now, okay?
That conversation,
she does look beautiful, though, I might add.
I was actually talking about my documentary. And so when I talk about that, I'm very vulnerable because it's something that...
Who knew she had a documentary coming out? Like, what you have a documentary coming out about? Like, all your failed relationships?
And to me, just even...
the improper rules of dating?
Spreading the message. Like, I always said I wanted to do it to have an impact. So... we were talking about...
what would Jen's documentary be about, Knotty Crew? Like...
conversation, and then I don't know if it like drifted off to something else, but it's almost like all these people in the room and I'm just talking to you, but he has my energy. You know what I mean? So it was just it was that. So then I'm kind of like, okay, that's when I was like, what's going on here? Anyway, because I had been out all day, I was like, okay, you know what? It's getting late. Like, let me go home. So when I got home, I texted Armani and what were my exact words, babe? Because you said I didn't say that. I thought I said, what's up with light skin?
Armani had exaggerated a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I think we pretty much...
It was like simultaneous.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like she sent the message, but I sent one. And my message was, because going up to the rooftop, I was just leaving therapy. So I had my therapist come to the house that day. It was a very rough day for me.
I'm glad to hear he believes in therapy. Can I say that is a good sign? Because when you go through something traumatic as being incarcerated, I think all people who come out of that situation the first thing they should do is go through therapy so that they can integrate back into society in a healthy way. Because a lot of times you see it on shows like Love After Lockup, their first feelings when they get out, they're overwhelmed, right? Because so much has changed and it's been so long since they've been on the outside, and it takes time to acclimate to that. So I recommend anyone that goes through a situation where they have been incarcerated for a long period of time, because that's just a different world. So I'm glad to hear that he is in therapy.
I take therapy very serious. So after therapy, I always go, I'll make a drink and I go to the rooftop by the fire pit, reflect, right? Had no intentions of meeting Jennifer. Definitely wasn't in a space to date. I was just like work on Christian, get right, hence therapy.
I like that though. A lot of people need to understand if they are in a position to date. And if you have a lot of a lot of trauma and things like that you have to deal with and you have not dealt with, you're not dateable. That's you're just but people recognizing that's the key. Just knowing like, look, I'm just not even in a space where I can share my life or open up my world. Good point.
And once we left from having that, what, 3 hour long conversation, I think, all of us, I text Armani and I said, did you see what I saw? Like, because me and Armani been knowing each other 15 years. I'm like, did you see what I saw? Did you feel the energy? He was like, I did. Coming to my apartment. And at the same time, she's like, what's his story? So
When you first saw Jennifer, did you know who she was? That she was the Jennifer Williams?
yeah, like I'd never watched the show, you know what I mean? But I knew exactly who she was.
Okay. And what was your prior to that 3 hour conversation? Did you have a perception of who Jennifer was? Like, is she this like bougie woman? Is she in a relationship? She's been like, did you have any preconceived notions about Jen?
No, I knew she was, it was class. You know what I'm saying? Like when Jennifer Williams, if I ever see her come across my explore page or anything like that, it's just like this is just a powerful black woman that has class. Um, and to still the question you asked her, when I saw Jen, I just saw Armani's friend. You know what I mean? I didn't say, oh, that's gonna be my wife or I want to fuck her. You know what I mean? I didn't have that in my head, especially at that time of what I was going through. So after that,
were you in a relationship at the time you saw Jen?
I had literally just gotten out of one with my children's mother.
The same day or that?
No, before.
Okay.
Before. So we met in December. I was out of my relationship the end of September.
Okay.
So, it was complicated and it was just not enough time. But it was like this gravitational pull, man. It was this gravitational pull with that conversation, and then next thing you know, we exchanged number. Well, we didn't exchange numbers, but I always say when she left and we walked into her car that night when she left our apartment, the hug we gave each other wasn't a church hug. It wasn't
like the ass this way, like
no. like our faces were like in each other's neck. And that's why we got into fragrance talk, because we both love fragrance. And I was just like, wow, you smelled amazing. This is when we start texting or whatever. And yeah, we start texting and it was gradual, small talk, and then that turned into a first date.
What was your first date at?
Her favorite, can you guess?
Nobu? Ah! My girl. With expensive taste.
It was 6 hours. So we met on a Friday. That Saturday, we had talked about getting together, but I didn't leave my house just because I had been out all day Friday. Like, I was just exhausted. So Sunday, I was just doing some running around because I was going to New York that Monday. And I was already at Nobu, actually, because at the time Armani worked at Nobu, and I was like running around. I hadn't eaten, so I was like at the bar, just like grabbing a bite, talking to him. And then he was like, maybe we should grab a drink at Nobu. And I was like, oh, funny you say that. I'm already here.
I'm on the way. I'm on the way.
So we started off at the bar. We were chatting at the bar. So now when he walks into Nobu, this is when I really see Christian, because
no hoodie, no nothing.
No hoodie. His hair was like this peach color. And I was like, okay, it was, I hate to say this because it's just so like
cheesy.
Cliche, but it was like giving Chris Brown vibes.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Like,
yeah.
I think they have a resemblance, but like Chris at one time was dyeing his hair and doing all these like different colors. And so I was like, okay. And so we started out at the bar, and I don't know how many hours we were at the bar, At the time,
Maybe 4.
my sciatica was kicking my ass, and I was like sitting at the bar like shit. So
Maybe
then
more
we ended
shorty.
up moving to a table, and we literally, I think I got to Noble at 5. I
You
think
did a
I
whole,
got to
you
5,
did a whole shift.
and we left at 12. We said, we talked about
Everything. And still, I didn't have that thing of like, this is gonna be my wife. It was just.
All right, come on, get
whether
to the
it's
gist.
that or friendship,
All
I was
right.
complete.
Enough of them meeting.
Phones down, and it was literally.
All right, so that's a little backstory.
Yeah, I dated 3 men my whole life. 2 were Geminis and 1 was a Scorpio.
Were they May or June?
May.
They're different.
Okay, that is a difference.
They're closer to Taurus.
Oh,
I'm closer to Cancer, so I have that.
Yeah.
I have that.
sensitivity.
I wouldn't say sensitive, but I'm very like when I become emotionally invested.
Mm-hmm.
Gemini men are dangerous, child. Let me tell you.
Only partakes in fancy locations.
Gemini men are dangerous.
Whatever a month. I don't listen. It's my best friend Joy. I don't live in New York, but you know we like exclusive things. So anyway, we're at this members only.
I don't have time for your bouginess, Jennifer.
I think he's younger than me, and I'm like, what?
I don't care about all of this.
Elevated. It was so mature, and
Of course, she's gonna say everything good about him.
In the years, and I started thinking about, wait, I was such and such old where he's talking about 2016 and all these like it was. It started like adding up, and I'm like, damn, I couldn't really like correlate that he was that age and he was so mature.
Mm-hmm.
So that I was like, that was so puzzling for me.
Was it a red flag for you?
It wasn't a red flag because here's the thing. This is what I always say. For me, I have, everybody has their prayer. I prayed for certain things in a man, right? I never said, oh, let him be such and such old. And I always say, you have to really be open to what God sent you, right? And people think it's supposed to come like wrapped up in this perfect package and you're supposed to get everything that you asked for. And I'm not saying you need to settle, but that wasn't one of my qualifications. They need to be a certain age. So I'm like, wow, he checks all these boxes for me. Let's see. Why not explore it? Because I'm a firm believer and you have to try it to know if you love it or hate it.
So what was it about Christian that you were so engulfed in? Like what were some of the things that you learned about him during that conversation? Or just like the vibe that you were feeling to where you were like, this guy definitely has my attention?
So for me, I'm very big on conversation. If you can hold my attention, and I also pay attention to how I feel, right? How comfortable I am. And he made me so comfortable. It was like, like me talking to you or my best friend Joy. It was effortless. And so that was one of the things that definitely caught my attention. Like, wow, I could just like sit and have a conversation. And I'm very big into communication. And then I loved how he was so transparent about his story and what he had gone through. And I'm so into storytelling because I'm a producer.
Y'all buying it? I just feel like she's working overtime to convince us that this is the right situation for us. I gotta get my charger in 1 second, y'all. All right, for those of you that's joining, we are reviewing the Jennifer Williams and Christian sit down with Carlos King. And yeah, I have a poll going. Let me know what y'all think. Do y'all feel like I feel like she's trying to sell us this dream. I don't know. It's so fairy tale and so perfect, and everything is butterflies and roses, and um, yeah, my poop don't stink.
So I love that his story was so compelling to me, right? But again, I was just comfortable. I didn't know where it was gonna go. Again, I was like going to New York, and I don't know where we saw each other when I got back from New York. New York. I think I went somewhere else after that.
You went to St. Louis.
All this stuff does not
We didn't see
matter.
each other maybe for 10 days, and
But we were still like in
yeah.
communication,
Get to
and
the meat and potatoes,
it
honey.
just became
Hey, Kazobe.
in the first
Girl, I'm
couple
glad
of
you
days.
here.
It was almost like I very much like being by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a me person.
You should have
I like to
continued
always
that
be by
same energy.
myself. Like I don't need someone.
You should have continued that same energy, girl. Ain't nothing wrong with being alone. Ain't nothing wrong with being alone. It's a lot of women out here. They yearn for like that companionship so bad that they willing to settle for anything. Hey, Bree. She stayed choosing the wrong man. We gonna get into it.
We would be together.
I
But
got lunch with my friend at 2:30.
like where like I missed his presence. So it became where we were inseparable. And it was a level of comfort that was sort of unknown for me. Because again, I don't mind being with someone, but like when I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't experience that with him.
So, Kristen, I want you to have the opportunity to talk about your story. Because there's a lot of things out there about you. And I'm sure you read some of them. There's,
Hey,
you know,
B&B.
things about you going to prison. There's things about domestic violence charges. There's things
Now,
about, you know, your career.
now we getting into it. Now we asking the hard questions. Please thumbs up the video and share. Let's go.
Scammer. You know, there's tons of things that are being attached to you. So I want you to have the opportunity to tell people, like, where are you from? Were you born and raised in Atlanta? Are you from another state?
Yeah, New York and raised here all my life.
Single mom or both
Single
parents?
mom.
Single mom.
My dad, you know, loved my father. And every child wants their parents to be together, but um, they co-parented very well. But I give credit to my mother.
I just feel like this is so media trained, and
And that's the reason why my mother, and she loves Jennifer. That woman taught me how to treat and respect a woman, because I watched my mother be verbally abused. Verbal abuse is just as bad as.
so that's an oxymoron right there. So you watch your mom being verbally abused, and but she taught you how to treat women. Hence your charges, where you felt like it was okay to impersonate someone and stop them from going, from leaving, from trying to get away from a toxic situation. Hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Red
yeah,
flag, red flag,
correlated.
red flag, red flag. Chris Brown watched his mama get beat.
As I became a man, and I've been through some toxic relationships.
Some.
And being young, being dumb, being stupid. What I think is love really wasn't love at that time. But God takes us through, certain paths and situations to land us with that special someone, whoever it may be, right? So yeah, um, went to school at SCAD, got a degree in fashion. So like I said, I've spent all my life in Atlanta. Got a degree in fashion. This is after two full ride scholarships to play ball, tore my ACL, PCL.
What type of
basketball?
Basketball, okay.
Senior year, tore my ACL, PCL and meniscus, and of course that's out the door. Backup plan. I've always loved fashion. I just love the feel of it. You know what I mean? Got a full ride to SCAD, and pursued that. At the same time, I'm working full time in corporate America. So of course, my load was super crazy. And at that time, I was with I had a girlfriend at the time, and this is from high school. high school carried into college.
Your high school sweetheart carried. Okay.
Yes, different schools, but high school sweetheart. And yeah, you know, at first it was great, you know, butterflies and all that stuff, and you know, things got bad because at that time, Carlos, I was arrogant. It's like I was
Still are. Roses and butterflies. Everything's great in the beginning. Well,
great money. I was in school. I went to school. I mean, I went to get a real estate license. Right. I'm just like leveling up. Because I saw my mom not struggle, but I saw my mom do everything for me and my brother. She never said no. Like she would grind if she had to get a second job, work from home. Aside from her corporate career, she would make sure we got to our AAU games. You know what I mean? She'll make sure she was just a dynamic mother. You know what I mean? And one thing I respect about my mother always told me and my brother, my older brother, we're 4 years apart. She said, the woman you marry, I want her to be better than me. And she's looked at Jennifer in her eyes and said, you have met that.
yes, Bree.
You've met that. Right. So, you know, going back to, you know, the upbringing, of course, finished school, got a bachelor's, and then I decided to leave corporate America at 20. This is around the time, you know, I had a situation with my ex-girlfriend at the time. And like I said, at that time, I do admit and I'm accountable for my arrogance, right?
Accountable for your arrogance, but not entrapping that woman. I just want to let you guys know what I noticed in the theme of this interview. We get a lot of fluff, and then he drops the bomb. We get a lot of fluff and sugarcoating, and then drop the bomb. I don't really feel like he's still taking accountability. Y'all let me know what y'all think.
Argument based off the arrogance, right?
You're arrogant.
He
My
was
arrogance.
forced to
And
leave.
when you say you were arrogant, in what way?
I wasn't like,
And
you know, effing people over or anything like that. It was just like, oh, my parents can't tell me anything. You can't tell me anything. Referring to my ex-girlfriend. No one, I'm making $130,000-$140,000 a year.
Bree, he was forced to leave what? Are you talking about the DV situation or are you talking about corporate America?
10 years old, like you can't tell me nothing, right? I'm out popping bottles in the club, living the dream as people see it, right? At this very young age. This is 2012, 2013. So we were living
Know what that sound like? The diddler.
we were living together, and you know, I made sure that, you know, she was good at the time because she was younger than me, like a year and a half. At the time, you know, I wanted her to discover and find what she wanted to do, whatever her passion was. So of course, I got her first job, and we would come.
Notice his wording. I wanted her to explore and find what she wanted to do. So I got her first job. That arrogance still is there. And I'm getting a sense of controlling as well. Y'all let me know if y'all get that same consensus. Notice he fluffs you up, sugarcoats it, drops the bomb, fluffs up again, drops the bomb. But I'm still sensing that arrogance. Oh, I wanted her to explore and figure out what she wanted to do. We were living together, so I was providing. So I got her first job. All this hype about him and his character. Right in B&B. Very controlling.
Every single day we would pretty much meet at home because my schedule was busy, and of course, you know, she was going back and forth to work. This specific day we were actually transferring to a new apartment. So they did renovations, and this is like the garden style apartment at the time in Brookhaven. And, you know, I get home, I illegally go buy wine. Right? This is the truth.
At this time, you're 19 still?
Yeah, I'm 19.
Yeah.
Right. So I buy wine. Well, they just didn't check my ID, right? So I stop at the store.
So he doesn't mind going on the verge of the law. As long as he can get away with it. He always finds loopholes.
Or whatever. Go home because I text her and I was like, listen, let's talk about upcoming finances. Not that I wanted her to pay anything, but of course with my partner, I want to communicate that stuff, right? we're transferring to a new apartment. It's more now, right? So she was like, okay, I'll be home at certain time. She gets home. We're sitting down and we're talking. We're going over everything about the move and life coming up. And of course, I'm asking her like, what's next for you? What do you want to do? Do I need help? And at that point, it just got heated. And I didn't understand it at that time of why, but maturity had to get me to that point of when I look back at it, right? I understood why she blew up. She had every reason to.
It's her fault. I understood why she blew up. Does that sound like a man taking accountability?
Because no one wants to deal with a partner where you can't tell them anything. It's supposed to be a partnership. You know what I mean? And I know we weren't married or anything, but it's still a partnership. So, uh, you know, things blew up and, my charge was false imprisonment. And what that means is, well, I can speak for the state of Georgia. What that means is she's yelling. Of course, the neighbors are knocking on the door.
So you guys are having a
I like what MBMB is saying. Very controlling, like he's giving her permission, possession, not partnership.
argument.
It's a heated argument.
And as you were trying to go over the finances and figure out all that stuff,
This is when she blew up and
yeah, because she felt like you were just being dismissive to her or just okay.
one thing I've
I believe what happened is he confronted her about it, and she probably wasn't in a mindset or mind space where she wanted to talk about it. But he wanted to talk about it, and that was more important because he wanted to deal with it right then and there instead of reading the room, seeing like, is she in a position where she can't talk about it? No, it was all about what Christian wanted in that moment. And so he was going to project and push his agenda. That's just my opinion.
grown to understand about women. They want you to sit and not just listen. They want you to understand. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing in hearing and then actually listening and understanding. And at that time, I'm immature, dude. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, oh man, like whatever I say goes type of thing. You know what I mean? And when I look back at it, I'm like, she had every right to blow up on me because she felt as I was being dismissive. Like, and that turned into, you know what? I'ma leave. Mind you, we were during the conversation we're consuming alcohol. So
Underage, mind you, because she was younger. He was only 19.
tolerance is cool, but at the time her tolerance wasn't as, but we're drinking and she wanted to leave. And I was like, no, it happens every day in every household, somewhere in the world, where you and your partner may get into a heated argument.
No, but we talking about your circumstance. Your particular circumstance. Yeah, it happens every day. That's when emotional management comes in. But we want to hear about you.
Right? And you're like, babe, let's just talk about it. So this is where my charge was created. I'm blocking the door from the front door to the back door. Right? She's like, I'm leaving. I take her keys. I'm like, listen, if you want to leave, call your mom, call your friend, but you can't drive this car like this because you're clearly intoxicated. So, we're going back and forth from front door to back door. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'll leave. If you want to go, cool. I still have the keys, but I'm leaving. I pack a bag. At that point, she doesn't leave the apartment, right? And I call my cousin. I say, I need you to come get me, before it gets, escalates to a crazy situation. He came and got me. And the next morning, I make a call. No answer. I make a call to her mother.
Okay, but because she tried to escape you by climbing over the balcony and there was witnesses. I feel like we're getting the Swiss cheese version, Naughty Crew. I feel like we getting the Swiss cheese version that he fed to Jennifer. He leaving a lot out.
He answered and she let me know that she was in the hospital from a jump off the balcony. So a garden style apartment is I'm on the 3rd floor, but
Mhm.
at these actually had garages underneath, so it's equivalent to like the 4th floor. Because you know what I mean?
She jumped off the 3rd floor
Off the
balcony.
3rd floor.
Was she trying to commit suicide?
I believe so. I don't want to put those words in her mouth, but I believe so.
No, why would she jump off the balcony if you left? Why would she have the need to jump off the balcony if you left the home? All over a conversation over finances and how we gonna split the bills?
When you were holding the door, did you like hold her back, him or you never touched her. You was just like blocking the door.
No. Just trying to come to some type of solution. Because at the time, yes, I consumed alcohol, but I was still level-headed enough to have a conversation. Like, let's just talk about it. But what I did...
No, let's just talk about, maybe you don't remember. Maybe you had a blackout moment. This is the Swiss cheese version of mansplaining things away, trying to justify his actions.
The time was that I was committing a crime. I didn't know that, if you block your girlfriend and say, babe, let's just talk about it. I didn't know that. I'm like, this is everything.
That was not it. More than that happened. And Jennifer, you stupid for... More than that happened. That girl ended up in a wheelchair for 3 months. You cannot tell me, he left and she still decided to go over the balcony. He's lying. You could tell, but look at his body language.
The common level thing. So, I was like, you know what? I give up. If you want to go, just go.
Well, then you call her mom, and her mom says she's in the hospital because she jumped off the...
What do you mean you give up? If you want to go, just go. I thought you packed a bag and had someone pick you up to leave. Which one is it? He just gave us like 3 different versions.
He break bones?
Yes.
Do you know what was
there?
wrong?
Yeah. It was her ankles. I think she tried to break her fall. I don't know, because I didn't see the fall. So I think she tried to break her fall.
Was it cement that she jumped on? Grass?
No. It was cement. So these, like, mind you, we're like above like the car garages that people rent out. So I think that impact, you know what I mean? It's different from when you jump out versus jumping, just jumping down.
Yeah.
It's a different type of impact. I think jumping out probably could have resulted in something.
No, these, Carlos, he's pissing me off. These semantics don't even matter. How did she end up feeling the need to jump? How?
So her mom said, listen, meet me at the apartment, and she has to go into surgery. Of course, I'm devastated.
Hit that like button,
This is someone
please.
I still love, right? And I get to the apartment.
Boom, Bree. He pushed her. Because she wouldn't bend to his will. That's my theory as well. Please hit the like. Please hit the like. We are reacting to Jennifer Williams and her fiance Christian sitting down on Reality with the King.
This is 7 a.m. This is super early. And I get to the apartment. There's a warrant for arrest on my door. I forget. I can't remember what the order says, but I couldn't unlock my door. They changed the locks, because what happened was when she fell, the neighbors called the police, right? Mind you, the neighbors had already heard the argument inside the apartment. So I get there. I'm like, okay.
Okay, so you got the neighbors that heard the argument. You got the neighbors that witnessed her trying to jump over the balcony, not once, several times. His story's not adding up.
Let's go to the leasing office. I pack her bag, right? And I give it to her mom. Let's go to the leasing office. I have to get this key so I can come back. Sorry, I'm speaking fast. Let me rewind. I go to the leasing office. They ask for my driver's license. So basically, What happened was when the police showed up, of course they had to show up, it's a dispute, right?
Mhm.
I believe they made a call to 24-hour maintenance, like, hey, change these locks so when he comes back, we can apprehend him. Okay. Get to the leasing office, I surrender my ID, and they're like, oh, well, we can give you a new key, just drop it off as you're leaving, whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool, right? They just, whatever. As soon as I pack her bag, hug her mom is like, listen, whatever happens.
Her mom never once asked you if you did anything to her daughter.
Her mom asked what happened.
Okay.
And I let her know we got into a very heated argument.
But she wasn't like upset with you or anything.
No. She gave me a hug. We had a very close relationship. She gave me a hug and just like,
This is Christian's version. We have not heard the victim side.
oh,
See, let me tell you what he banking on. He was able to plead those other charges away, and they only charged him with the false imprisonment. This is what happens. He was able to plead those other charges away.
police get behind you or trail you, whatever, just you're a black man, just whatever. You'll make bond or whatever it is, right? I get back to the front of the neighborhood, pull through the gate, and it's SWAT team, and I mean, you wouldn't think I've murdered someone. And I'm like, okay, cool. All right. I go do 20 something hours in jail, and
They arrested you?
yeah,
on
they arrested me
site,
on the spot.
On the spot.
And that was very traumatizing. Because of
It's all about Christian. It was traumatizing, him getting arrested, but it wasn't traumatizing that his girlfriend jumped over the balcony and ended up in the hospital. It's all about Christian.
I'm literally like, police brutality has been happening for a long time.
Oh, now
It's just,
I can't stand when people do. Now you want to bring in police brutality and oh, black men are treated unfair in the state of Georgia. I can't stand when our people do this. It's race baiting. If you don't break the law, you don't end up in. And granted, I'm not saying that situations don't happen like this, but I feel like people like Christian misuse.
it's big now.
And now you're trying to make it about police brutality and not about the fact that you DV'd this girl.
Social media, because it can be recorded, because of body cameras, right? But at that time, reliving that moment, I'm like, listen, I don't have anything on me, and they're like dragging me out the car, slamming me on the ground. I'm just like, listen, I'm not resisting. I just take me.
Notice how he makes himself the victim once again.
You know what I mean? I do 20 hours in jail. I bond out, and I go back to my regular life. At the time, I was working at AT&T in corporate America. And of course, my manager understood. I didn't lose my job. I kept my job. And I would say maybe probably a week, because the apartments, because of that situation, they filed for eviction. So now this goes on my credit. They said you can't. We know you're transferring to a new apartment tomorrow, but you can't stay here. So now I have to.
So you telling me off of one incident, because a lease is a contractual agreement. And I do know DV situations can automatically get you evicted. You're talking about one incident that you were so innocent and that you packed up and you left for the night. They're evicting you. No, it had to be a history there for them to come, because there's a contractual agreement in place. So they have to have cause to terminate that lease.
Apartment, right? I found a new apartment. At this time now, my ex-girlfriend, she has to take a leave from work. Her mother has to take a leave from work to take care of her daughter, right? And we were communicating, like, back and forth.
Did she tell the cops you hit her?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you and her were even like, she never blamed you for what happened to her.
No, I mean, she did say it was the same thing I'm saying. She did, because she had a chance to actually speak in court, and She told the judge to go easy on the sentence. You know, he has all this stuff going on, and the judge did it.
How
Girl, is that legal? We need the court transcript from his case. Because I don't believe nothing he's saying.
long were you sentenced? For how many years?
10 years to serve 7. And I was acquitted on domestic violence.
So you were
because I didn't, you know, people take pleas and stuff like that. I took it to trial because in trial they were the actual prosecutor that is actually working against me, right?
That's their job.
He comes to the judge like, you know, things happen. They're super young. We recommend 2 years to serve 6 months in the county. He does 3 months good time. He'll come home in 90 days. And the judge said, "You've got to be kidding me. That is the craziest recommendation for a sentence I've ever heard." She said, "I recommend 5 years in a detention center," which same thing as prison, pretty much, right? Just not as violent as prison. And I literally tapped my attorney at the time and I said, "I'm not taking that. I'm not taking it." And that's when I told them, you know, I guess at this point we're going to trial. So here I am on trial in DeKalb County.
But she wasn't pressing charges. The state took it over.
The state took it over
because it's domestic.
And let me expound on that. When I came home from bond, I only did 20 hours in jail, bonded out. I didn't hear anything from the courts. Typically, if someone presses charges, you hear something pretty much, not immediately, but maybe a month or 2, right? I didn't hear anything for a year and a half. Mind you, Carlos, this happened when I was 19. I didn't go to prison until I was 21, going on 22. So I would say maybe, about a year and a half, I get a notice at my new apartment. Mind you, I got evicted because of the what happened. Being blind, what do? I invite her back in to move into the new apartment.
So he can abuse her some more.
Try to figure it out. And guess what? I wouldn't say I let her move in, but leaving an overnight bag turned into clothes hanging up in the closet. Clothes hanging up in the closet turned into, you know what? You can have a key. You can turn the lock whenever you want. So it wasn't a thing of we're living together like an everyday thing, but
look, because he's changed his name because he hiding a lot. He hiding his scams and his conviction. If anybody knows his former name before he turned it, hey feds, no more kids over here. Anybody know Christian's previous name? Let me know because I'm looking for the court transcript. I want to see what this girl testified to.
It got to that point where we were still communicating. We were actually still communicating up until a day before my trial started.
What happened?
We were just communicating.
No, why did you guys stop the day before your trial happened?
Well, my trial was 3 days. Third day of trial,
he was love bombing her, trying to get her not to testify. That's why he let her move in a new apartment.
Prison. It's no turn-in date. It's nothing. She's like, you got to surrender today.
So when she was on the stand, was she defending you or saying like?
I would definitely say yes. She wasn't there like, oh, send him to prison. He's a bad person. That never came out of her mouth, ever. It was just literally the judge asked her, "What do you recommend for sentencing?" And I remember it. I remember that part vividly, where the judge asked, "What do you recommend for sentencing?" And she said, "Don't go hard on his sentencing." Because even after my conviction, when the jury convicted me, or they found me not guilty, they read the first count, domestic violence, jury found you not guilty. Second count, false imprisonment, which I admitted to, right? I did admit to it. I never told the detectives in interrogation that I didn't do it. I was like, listen, I was just trying to hold the door and have a conversation, right? And they found me guilty on false imprisonment. So on the stand, she was just like, listen, don't go hard on him. Don't like, it's because even when you get convicted, your sentencing can still be probation.
No, the state picked up the charges. You pleaded out that DV charge for your record. You then proceeded to love bomb her to try to get her not to testify, but the state already had her as a witness, so she had no choice but to testify.
Just because you get convicted, I mean, Donald Trump just got convicted, but he didn't go straight to prison, you know.
Boy, do not bring that gaslighting narcissist into this situation. He's convicted.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge, I remember her. She said, "I could, I accept your recommendation, but I want to make an example out of him, and I want to give him 10 years to serve 7 in a state prison."
Who are you to make an example out of, Christian? You are a corporate working man, a young man.
For false imprisonment. And
there's a lot of states where false imprisonment is actually a common level misdemeanor.
No, we're talking about the state of Georgia.
At worst, if they do convict you, you'll do maybe a couple of months.
Yeah, and just so I'm clear, the false imprisonment was what exactly? Like, did you show a fake ID? Like, what was the
false imprisonment is when false imprisonment is when you hold someone against their will. So on my indictment, anyone can find this online. Right? I'm an open book.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another reason why I just speak about this, right? It's like a conviction that comes over me because my story can either help people or people can say, I don't care. It is what it is, right? But at least the people I'm helping, that's who I want to help. On the indictment, it said kidnapping. And I'm like, whoa. Kidnapping is when I say, I grab you, I put you into a room, and I close the door. That's 25 to life. False imprisonment is when you're just blocking someone from leaving a space. Whether it be a door or an entryway, that's the difference.
And they gave you 10 years the maximum sentence?
10 years is the max sentence. And the split sentence comes so when I say 10 do 7, right? That's a split sentence. So you're not obligated to do, let's say I did day for day. I wouldn't do 10 years day for day. I would do 7 day for day. But I actually got out on good time. I went to prison, wrote my first book, became a best-selling author on Amazon. Actually wrote my second book, which still hasn't been published yet. But I used that time. At first, I didn't understand. I'm like, why me, God? Like, why me? And as I was getting through my sentence, I was like, I get it. And it went back to Christian's arrogancy. You couldn't tell him anything. Either I was going to end up dead or where I was. So I came to a point of acceptance, like, you know what? I want to label this a spiritual retreat. I'm still young. I'm still a baby. You know what I mean? And I'll overcome this. So I turned a negative into a positive, even though prison is a very negative environment. It's very dangerous. It's very violent. You know what I mean?
Did you ever get physically harmed in prison?
Yeah, I was stabbed. I was stabbed in a gang war. I'm not a gang affiliate.
Notice every chance he gets to highlight his victimization, he does. So now he's hardcore criminal getting stabbed up. I mean, that's what happens in prison.
But when there's a war going on, it's like every man for themselves. So if you're in a dorm or a cell block with all these guys and everybody's got their knives and they're just stabbing, and you know what I mean? So I got stabbed
in prison.
Yeah, I got stabbed. You get into fights because the thing about prison is you're going to get your hands up.
I gotta get dressed for my lunch date.
Learn how to fight, even if you don't know how to. Because if someone comes up to me that's doing hard time, like 25 life, right? Just because I had a 10 to 7 doesn't mean I'm not in a cell block with people that have 2-3 life sentences. They just mix and mingle it, right? I have a non-violent charge, and I'm with rapists, kidnappers, murderers, people right down the hall from death row, where there's people that get executed in X amount of years.
Yeah, that's what prison is, Christian.
It just woke me up. It woke me up. It did. It was, like I said, it was a negative situation, but I did everything I could to turn it into a positive. If someone was like, they called me Bless in prison. That was my prison name. They called me Bless without the ED, Bless, because I used the commissary that I had, which is when people put money on your books. So you can buy food, so you can buy books, right? Mm-hmm. I used that and I just gave it away. Because I saw people that you see a lot of people that are.
You are such a good Samaritan. You gave all your commissary away, Christian. Blessed, blessed, blessed be the child. You sure they wasn't bullying you out of your commissary?
They convicted. You do. When I hear some of these stories, I'm like, wow, self-defense. If someone just, there was a guy where someone walked in his home and he shot him, he still went to prison. But they tell you to protect your home if someone comes to the threshold. So it was just a lot, man. It was a lot to deal with, but I got my body right. I worked out, read 300 books, and I was just like, listen, God, when you send me home, that's when I'll go home. Came home 3.5 years later, did the remaining 3.5 on parole to make the 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the split
So
sentence.
for 3 years on probation.
3.5 on parole.
On parole.
Yeah, because that prison sentence, if you get out early, that's parole.
Okay.
And then the split, the 10 to 7, once you finish the 7, you have to do the remaining on probation.
Got it.
You still
So
in
you're on
jail,
probation
Christian?
Yes.
You're still on probation today.
Almost done.
Almost done. How many more months do you have left on probation?
12. Exactly.
12 more months left.
That's all. That's
Right, Bree.
After doing time,
If you mind your
12 months,
business.
you
Correct.
You know how fast a year.
If you mind your business and do your time and don't disrespect nobody, that he strikes me as a type that is very messy and that will get himself into stuff. Trying to be slick. You see what I'm saying? You try to be slick and them men feel disrespected, they going to check you. You had to have done something. Sorry, guys. I'm just looking for, you know how you be looking for a particular legging or a particular something. That's what I'm doing. I got to get ready for my lunch date with my bestie. Right, Bree. So I get what you're saying, too. I guess it's not in there. This is in the drawers. I got a cousin that did hard time. He got sentenced to 40 years. And yeah, he get into fights, but they ain't never tried to stab him up. It can happen, though. I'm not saying it can't happen.
I think, too, it's important to add, he was young, and this was, like, his first time ever being in trouble, right? So he didn't know the system, and you had, what was the situation with the attorney? He didn't have good representation.
So I hired, and I'm glad you touched on that, babe.
So now Jennifer is going to adopt his mansplaining tactics, and this is how she's justifying her being in this relationship. Pay attention, Knotty Crew.
I hired an attorney before my first arraignment, right? Pre-trial, all that stuff. He said, we're super close to this date, so I need everything. You not just a little small retainer, you got to pay everything. So I paid $20,000 for this lawyer. Emptied out my savings. And I remember going to court 7:30 in the morning for my first appearance or whatever you call it. And I called him.
He remember all these details, but can't remember the incident that got him in this situation in the first place. Now I'm just warning you, Knotty Crew, here is Christian becoming a victim again.
Called him, no answer. He sends me a text immediately. Thank God for that text, though. He sends me a text that says, I'm no longer representing your case. You're going to have to hire a public defender. Me, I'm like, well, first off, I'm like upset about him saying the morning of my court hearing or first appearance, you just went ghost. And then the other side of me is like, okay, public defender, okay, maybe they'll defend me too. Mind you, I am naive to the court system because I've never been in it up until this day. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Outside of a traffic ticket. So I get there and the judge is looking at me like, you're probably going to need like a lawyer for this case. It's a very serious case. And I said, Judge, I hired an attorney. He bailed. She was like, what proof do I have that he bailed? And I had the text message. You see what I'm saying? Like that important piece. She's like, I'm not going to say the name, but she said, he's always in our courtroom. So it wasn't that he wasn't practicing or anything. She was like, the same judge, like judges know the way,
Yeah,
attorneys.
of
That's
course.
so.
He took your money and went ghost.
I got it back through the bar. It took some
Okay.
time, but yeah. So here I am being represented by a public defender. I would have to say that I'm still, even though that they're court appointed, I still give that man his flowers. He fought for me.
Mm-hmm.
He cried. He called me crying. I was like, now that I know what public defenders are, they're just trying to get you a plea deal because it's all systemized. I'm like, this guy really fought for me. Like, he really fought. He would call me and say, listen, I'm literally celibate. I'm not having sex with my wife. I'm invested in Christian's case.
That is not professional. That is not professional. That is not professional. Him even saying that. Hey, Marva. Hey, Grape Tea. Yes, please thumbs up the video. That is not professional. I don't believe that. I don't believe that man called him crying. I don't believe that he revealed that. I don't believe none of it.
He's like, I felt it.
Christian is a storyteller. Like Jaguar, right? Okay. Jaguar, I should say.
He fought for me, and it's an unfortunate situation. On both sides. I don't wish that on my ex-girlfriend. I want her to live a successful life. I want her to move forward. If she hasn't already.
Have you heard from her since you've been in the public eye?
No.
When you got out of prison, did you two reconcile?
No.
No.
And that is special conditions.
Right.
No contact.
I was going to say no contact. Right.
I'm not doing anything to put me back in hell.
Yeah.
Why is it a no contact with him?
Yeah. And I have moved on from it. Doing that time alone, and you really discover yourself. And I had people in that place are very intelligent. Their wisdom is through the roof because when you spend time alone, that's when God is able to come in.
Oh God! Now we bringing God into it.
My bunkmate at the time, I had multiple bunkmates in different dorms. And you may have a bunkmate for 6 months, you may have one for 3 years, whatever.
I cannot find my leg.
And he said, "Bless, do you take accountability for what you did?"
No.
I said, "I did it." You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I should be serving this amount of this sentence. It's crazy. He said, I know that you're influential because of what you did in this place, and helping people get their GEDs, and you're going to the chapel to,
Any opportunity for him to boost his ego, he gonna take it, y'all.
The chaplain, I made sure I stayed busy in there because I couldn't have that idle mind. He said, I know your influence, but do you know the influence that you had on her as a woman? I said, no. I was 19, man. You know what I'm saying? He was like, you created the demon in her because your influence is so impactful. So everything that backlash, you need to look in the mirror, and you created that. And literally, Carlos, I felt my stomach fall because I had to come to a realization that I did create it. I built that. A lot of women don't realize it, but they're heavily influenced by the men in their lives. They start to talk like them because that's what men are here for.
That's what happens in relationships.
Women come from the rib.
This is what is happening with Jennifer. She has adopted his same manipulative tactics.
Here to be your helpmate, but they look at you as a leader. So how I respond to certain things, or how if I start an argument and I'm blowing up, she's gonna blow up. And when he said that,
that's so profound, Christian. It's called mirroring.
Like, whoa.
When you heard this story, when you guys were at that 6-hour dinner, did it give you pause to want to pursue something with him, just based on your experience with your past relationships?
No, because honestly, he was so open about it. And you have to think, he didn't know me from a can of paint and vice versa. But he felt comfortable telling his story. And I was like, okay, I can't be the only person, And honestly, I felt compassion for him because I was like, damn, how... I'm trying to put together well, how did that happen just from... But then I started thinking, I'm like, okay, we're in a Republican state, Georgia. Like, you're already in a negative when you're a black man in Georgia going into the court system. So the way he told his story, it wasn't cocky. It wasn't. He took full accountability. It was just, this is the deck of cards that I have been dealt. So for me, it wasn't a red flag. Like, people done way worse. And,
Jennifer.
I love that he was just so open about it. So I was like, wow, like, that's interesting.
Jennifer.
I never got that.
You sound dumb. You sound. You see how she just mans?
And unfortunately, with what I do, it comes with a large amount of eyes and scrutiny and people saying whatever. And so for me, I'm always like, damn, I'm almost kind of disrupting his peace because he's lived a very a very private life until he met me. But I don't like the narrative that people are trying to spin, like, oh, he's a woman beater, a domestic violence, because that's far from the case, you know?
And for the record, you weren't convicted for DV. You were convicted for false imprisonment. Okay.
And so, listen, people get into arguments. It happens. And this was an unfortunate situation. Like I always say, it's unfortunate for both of them. Like, both of their lives were affected because of this.
Yeah.
And I don't know her, so I don't know how it has affected her, just from what I have heard about the case. But I see how it has affected him, and I'm just like, it's not right, And I just don't like that people have labeled him that. And like, I get it. For some reason, I don't know why people are so invested in who the fuck I'm with.
Bitch.
It's almost a little scary.
Bitch, that's just like that fucking ignorant ass food stand comment that you made. The fact is, you're a public figure, and we watch you make mistake after mistake after mistake in relationship. And just like you're doing now, you're ignoring the red flags. So if you don't want the public in your business, then get off TV, Jennifer, and we won't be in your freaking business. But you're sitting up here supporting this scammer. Carisha, please.
No, I'm gonna tell you what it is. When it comes to you, you have a lot of loyal fans. When it comes to reality TV, you're like our Black Barbie.
No, she ain't mine.
And because you are this beautiful glamazon. You wear your bouginess on your sleeve, and we love it. When you told Tammy you never saw a food stamp in your life, like, we all laughed at it.
It's true.
No, but what was crazy about it is this. It's me included, before we became friends, I was like, oh, she's everything. Because you're such a sweet woman. And you're so beautiful, you're classy, and you don't bother nobody in the sense of, like, leave Jen alone. Like, y'all can fight other people, but y'all leave her alone, because Jen ain't about that life. Like, Jen is more so like, I'll throw you some cute shade, but I really want to, like, go shopping.
Yeah.
So when it comes to you, you have a very protective fan base. And listen, let's have a real conversation, right? There's a lot of people who are very concerned about you, Jen. They feel like, we saw you been scammed before. We saw your life story played out on the show you produced. We saw you date another reality star who was convicted for setting up his family member to be murdered, right? And he's rotting in prison as we speak. And then you have this guy come along, right? So that's what the audience knows. And they feel like, oh my gosh, Jen, you are with a scammer. Christian is somebody who is young, and he has smooth talked his way into your life. And they feel like, we saw you go through these bad relationships. We saw your ex-husband throw a drink in your face. Your audience, we saw Evelyn run across the table trying to attack you. We saw this girl slap you. A lot of people are protective of you. When it comes to Christian, they don't know him. So what they have heard, courtesy of the internet, is ODB charge, and that just made them go crazy. So how do you feel knowing that people are very concerned that you are in a relationship where you are about to get scammed again?
So for me, the word scam is very triggering.
Yeah.
And it's like the furthest thing from who he is. Right? And I feel like I'm very appreciative of people being concerned for me. I'm appreciative
No, she not.
of my fans. But
Her mom made up.
I would not do a documentary about being scammed and putting the whole story out there, including from other people, his own family, and trying to really send a message, right? My whole purpose in this passion project was, let's talk about something we don't really talk about in the Black community, because we don't talk about it in the Black community for several reasons. People have pride, ego. It takes someone being very brave to come with a camera in your face and say, I took an L. People don't want to do that. So I learned so much about myself, about scamming. Somehow I became the poster child for scamming. Like, people were reaching out to me. Oh, I've been scammed. Like, what do I do? That period of my life, I learned so much, right? And another thing, I have asked in my prayers every single day, I ask God for discernment.
Bullshit.
And I ask God, listen, if someone's not supposed to be in my life, please remove them. I have learned tremendously, right? And, you know, people want to say, oh, she's not street smart. Da, da, da. Like, I have common sense and I have discernment and I have learned from these mistakes that I've made. Everybody has been in some form of a bad relationship, no matter how you want to spin it. Some are worse than others. What I can say is Christian has been nothing but a gentleman to me. And I always say I applaud his mother for that, because she taught him how to be a gentleman. Christian has never asked me for anything.
Has he ever asked you for money?
Christian's never asked me for money.
He did on the show.
And that's another narrative. Like,
I'm sorry. What was the conversation for on the show about the restitution? Shall we pull it up? And Jennifer was like, let's call. To me, that conversation was asking for the money. If we don't pay this, I won't be able to go to Paris to get married. Did I miss that? Did I miss something? Did I miss something? She's full of it.
and
She's full of
the
shit.
word scam or scammer, that's triggering for me because of what I went through, you know. And it's all people say all kinds of, oh, well, you should have known there was no ref. Like, scammers perfect their craft.
Like your fiance.
You know, like, it's like being an actor. You're going to constantly perfect your craft. So I went through so much with that. And so when I hear that, I'm like,
All right, guys, I can't stomach no more of this. I appreciate y'all joining me for the reaction video. Jennifer, you gonna get what you gonna get.
I think I pulled it off.
Look at old Nene. Look at old Nene on the pole.
No, you can't get no dance here, honey. This shoot absolutely surpassed my expectations. These girls went places.
That's when they actually did stuff on Housewives. So y'all did the poll. I said, should Jennifer still walk down the aisle? 14% say yes, and 86% say no. So I appreciate every last one of y'all joining me. Like, comment, and share. I gotta go meet my bestie for lunch and stuff. And I hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful, blessed day. Please go over to Carlos King to check out the full interview. But I call Bull Swinky. Until next time, Knotty Crew, I'm out. One.